At this point, we hope you're itching to get your hands dirty with Couchbase, so let's get you equipped. To install Couchbase Server, go to couchbase.com/downloads, choose your operating system, and then download and install the assets as required by your operating system. Or, if you prefer to work with a containerized instance, visit couchbase.com/containers. Couchbase is flexible in letting you interact with it how you prefer. We have an informative and easily navigated user interface, a thorough set of command line tools focused around Couchbase CLI, and a comprehensive REST API to let you easily integrate Couchbase with the rest of your infrastructure and third-party tooling. When working from the command line, Couchbase CLI is your Swiss Army knife. You'll use it to manage buckets, manage servers, manage how they're balanced, and a whole lot more. Of course, there's more than just Couchbase CLI. There's also CBQ, a command line tool for running and potentially automating NCL queries. CB import for loading external JSON and CSV data in bulk. CB Backup Manager, our enterprise-grade backup and restoration tool. CB Collect Info for gathering detailed statistics about a particular node. CB Stats for gathering node and cluster-wide statistics. CB Workload Gen to generate data and read-write traffic for performance testing purposes. And there's much more than that. You'll find all of this where you'd likely expect it, in the bin folder and related folders on Linux, and on Windows, and on Mac. Of course, pictures are worth 1,000 words, as they say, and demonstrations are even better. We're going to take a short look at some of the features we've been discussing. We'll look at navigating the interface, creating a bucket, loading data, connecting to another cluster, setting up an XDCR replication, and where to look for stats and metrics. So you'll see here I have two different clusters set up. I've got Tokyo running in one tab, and over in this tab I've got London. You'll see in London, under servers, I have two small servers running in a single group for rack zone awareness with all services running. Similarly, over in Tokyo, I also have two servers in a group running all services. I'm back here in London. Over in buckets, you'll see that I have a bucket called travel sample loaded. Over in Tokyo, I've got beer sample loaded. Now if I go down to my settings, you'll see there's a number of settings here, including cluster-wide settings for memory and services, software updates, failover settings, email alerts, compaction settings, and this is where you can load additional sample data for your own development and testing purposes. Now back over here in London, beyond just buckets, we also have indexes that were loaded along with the travel sample data. We have a query interface, which is where you could go to execute NCL queries. Now, there's a ton more to play with and learn here, but we have an entire course free here online where you'll spend the entire duration pretty much in this interface. So I'll let you explore that on your own. Over here under the search interface, this is where you would go to create full-text search indexes. And then here's security, where you would add users with appropriate permissions, as we've discussed. And then here's XDCR, and that's what we're going to play with a little bit here. We want to set up a connection from London to Tokyo. So the first thing I need is my address for Tokyo. I'll keep it easy and copy it out here. I'll go back to London, and I want to add a remote cluster reference for my Tokyo cluster from London. I'll paste in the IP and host name, take off my HTTP and trailing slash. Of course I need credentials here, and it would be for an appropriate account. It could be a more limited account than administrator, of course. We'll talk about that more in the security lesson, and notice that you could set up TLS encryption here. I'll go ahead and save that, And there I have a reference to my remote cluster. Now what I want to do is move data from London to Tokyo via replication. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is go create a new bucket. I'm going to add a new bucket in London, which I'll call Couch Music. It'll be a very small bucket with just 1024 megabytes, and I'm going to skip all of the other settings we could play with here. You can explore those on your own. I'll go ahead and add that bucket, and it warms up across both of the available nodes. Notice at this point it has 0 items. What I'm going to do here over in a terminal is load this file. If you take our CB110 course, you can look at this file in more detail, and you'll be loading this and a lot of other data, but it's a file of about 97,000 JSON documents. I want to load those into my Couch Music bucket. To keep things easy here, I've got the command already typed in, so notice we're using CB import over here in the bin folder. We're loading JSON data locally to Couchbase running on this node, using these credentials, administrator and password, keeping it very simple here. We're loading into the Couch Music bucket a bunch of lines of JSON. There's many other ways you can load data. From this particular file, as we saw, we're using 2 threads to do so, could use a lot more, and we want the key pattern to look like this. We're going to extract the type value out of each document, which if you dug in the CB110 course, is you would see it there, and then an arbitrary separator of 2 colons, and then the ID value from each document. So those will end up being the keys of these documents. I'll execute this command, and there we've loaded about 97,000 documents. If I go over here to Couch Music, we see 97,000 documents here. And if I go over to my 2 servers, you'll see that the items are split pretty much equally between the 2 of them because of all of the approaches we looked at earlier here in this course. So I want this data to move over to Tokyo. Well, it means I need a bucket to contain it over here in Tokyo. So we'll add a bucket here in Tokyo. Couch Music, and just to keep it distinct, I'll call this Couch Music Tracks. It would not have to be the same name here. Give it the same memory quota. It's warming up across both nodes in Tokyo. And we have an empty bucket in Tokyo. Now I'm going to go back to London. And I'm going to go to XDCR. I've got my Tokyo cluster. Now I'll add a replication. I'm going to select my Couch Music bucket, and then I've got a cluster reference for Tokyo. I'll put that in here, and my remote bucket in Tokyo is named Couch Music Tracks. Now, we could filter by key, and there's other settings we could configure. Again, we're keeping it very simple here. I'll go ahead and save this, and the replication begins. Now we'll go over to Tokyo, and you'll notice, takes just a moment, and I have my documents loaded here. If I go in to take a look at them, I'll edit the first one, and you'll see that just as was configured on the import over in London, the prefix is the type track, which is in each document, followed by a couple of colons as a prefix, and then an ID value that was also contained in each one of these documents. You see those values right here within the document itself. That sets up one-way replication from London to Tokyo. If I wanted master-master bidirectional, I would set up a remote cluster back to London here from Tokyo and set up a replication in the other direction as well. As you can see, you can wire up your clusters however you wish. But just as in London, the 97,000 documents, actually documents from all the buckets, are balanced equally across the available servers, running the data service over here in Tokyo. So what have we learned? Well, Couchbase provides 3 approaches to administration: a web interface, command line tools, and a REST API. We have comprehensive command line tooling. The web interface and command line tools both rely on the underlying REST API. The REST API enables easy integration into third-party tools and your own custom tools. The UI is informative and, as you saw, easy to navigate, and buckets are easily loaded with external JSON and CSV data and replicated easily to other clusters. In the next lesson, we're going to introduce Couchbase security. Stick around.